What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today is Wednesday, which of course means it's time for another Western New York Wednesday here on the channel. And today I am doing a comparison review of two different vintages of the same beer from the Resurgence Brewing Company, and they are out of Buffalo, New York, and it's their Imperial Sponge Candy Stout, the 2019 vintage, and the 2016 vintage. Now, both of these beers are Imperial Stouts that are brewed with sponge candy, and they both come in at 10% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review. Don't know exactly how old these beers are, but typically this beer is released in the late fall, early winter time. So I'm going to say the 2019 vintage is no older than 6 months old, while the 2016 vintage is approximately 3.5 years old. So when it comes to this beer, one of my favorites in Buffalo. I went to the original bottle release, I think it was back in 2014, and ever since then, I typically buy this beer each year, and I drink it fresh, but I've never had it aged. And I bought a couple bottles in 2016, and I didn't drink one of them, so I'm like, it'd be fun to see how this one ages. And it says right on the can over here or on the bottle, enjoy today or aged. So I've never had it aged. And I typically, pick them up quite fresh and drink them within the first, 2 or 3 months of when I buy the beer. So this one's a little bit older. It's not like super fresh or whatever, but should be fine. And this one, 3.5 years old, I have no idea. So they have a little bit of a spiel here on the back, and it says, our take on a classic Buffalo treat. We make this beer with sponge cuttings from Watson's Chocolate's Sponge Candy. The sponge added gives us a toffee and caramelized sugar flavor. We also use huge amounts of pale chocolate and dark chocolate malts to give this beer the chocolate, coffee, and roast to keep it from being overly sweet. This big, flavorful Imperial Stout is a perfect sipping beer to enjoy amongst friends throughout the holidays or anytime. Enjoy aged or fresh. So yeah, I mean, this has always been a really good beer. They do a barrel-aged version I've had a couple times, really good. I think I prefer the base. Here's the thing though, at the end of this month in March, I am going to do barrel-aged Michigan week, but during that week, I'm also gonna throw in a couple other barrel-aged beers that aren't Michigan related. And for Western New York Wednesday that week, I'm hoping, I gotta still pick up the 2019 barrel-aged version of this, but I wanna do a vintage of barrel-aged Imperial Sponge Candy Stout to the latest release. We'll see. If I can get that done, I'm all about it. So anyway, let's open up the 2019 and pour it into the glass here. This is the first year that they've canned this beer, at least from what I've seen. So I don't think they released this one last year. We're gonna go only about half because I'm not trying to get crazy, And plus, gotta do the Cuvée at the end, gonna do a Cuvée. Definitely doing a Cuvée, no doubt. Spill a little bit over here, not a big deal. Anyway, that goes like that. Now we're gonna crack this one open. I'm gonna have a topper here to put into this one because definitely not gonna be able to drink this entire thing today, especially with that one. So let's give it a pour over here. So right from the get-go, the newer one looks kind of thicker, or at least it seemed that way. So is that about good, about even? Yeah, pretty much. All right, put it over here like this. So we're looking good right now. Anyway, how do they look? Let me swirl up ahead for this one since it's already been poured. Swirl up ahead for this one. I can smell alcohol in this one. Definitely alcohol, like a big alcohol blast. So they look very similar. Like I said, when I was pouring this one had, more of like a viscous kind of look to it. The one on the left, a little bit thinner. I can see more alcohol legs on the 2016. A little bit of a darker head, although I don't know if that's going to come off on camera. They're basically pitch black, about a quarter of a finger of a, this is more like a mocha colored head in person, and this one's more like a darker brown, but very similar looking beers, I would say. Not much difference going on, but very similar. Let's get a nose on the 2019. Yeah, so a lot of chocolate in this one. They talk about the toffee, the caramelized sugars. Yes, I'm even getting like a molasses in here. It just has like a candied nature to it, like a chocolate bar type of nose to it. Nice roasted malt character. I wouldn't say necessarily coffee. It's more just roasted malt. But yeah, roasted malt, molasses, a little bit of dark fruit in there, but chocolate, toffee, caramel, caramelized sugars in general. Yes, this smells what I pretty much remember this beer smelling like, and it smells pretty good. So let's get a nose on the 2016 vintage. Wow, that has changed immensely. Holy shit. So I'm getting a little bit of like an umami, not quite full on soy sauce, but like kind of an umami, almost soy sauce kind of note. So definitely not aging as well as I would hope. But definitely getting a real big, rich, like caramel, toffee, really like burnt sugar kind of nose to this one. The chocolate isn't as pronounced in this one, and the chocolate that's here is more like a bittersweet chocolate. But yeah, it definitely smells way different than the 2019. Yeah, 2019, sweeter, more chocolate. This one, bit of that umami, but more of like a caramel, really burnt sugar vibe to it. Yeah, they both smell quite different. My preference is the fresh one right now. The umami soy sauce thing isn't like huge and prevalent, but it's definitely noticeable, kind of turning me off a little bit. So let's get into the 2019. Cheers, everyone. Yeah, it's a really nice beer. The body on this one, low side of like full body. It has a nice viscous body behind it. For 10%, I'd say it's appropriate. It might even be approaching like medium full. Lots of chocolate. The chocolate isn't as sweet as it was in the nose. It has more of like a bittersweet, almost baker's kind of chocolate to it. And then you get, like right at the tip of the tongue, caramelized sugars, toffee. The thing about sponge candy, and I always thought it was weird with this beer, not weird, I'm glad that they brew it with sponge candy because it is very popular in the Western New York area. The thing about sponge candy is the texture, and it's hard to translate the texture of sponge candy into beer form. I mean, the whole reason it's called sponge candy is like when you bite into it, it's very spongy and it kind of melts in your mouth. That's hard to translate that into beer, in my opinion. So yeah, it has a toffee, caramelized sugar kind of taste to it, and you do get it in here. It's right at the tip of the tongue, bittersweet chocolate, then it passes through, it gets sweeter. Toffee, caramelized sugars, caramel, a little bit of a dark fruit in here. And then mid-palate, that bittersweet chocolate turns into like a sweeter chocolate. So it's bittersweet chocolate, caramelized sugars, toffee, and then sweet chocolate. As it finishes with a pretty decent residual sweetness. There's a touch of dryness and a touch of like a mild bitterness. This one definitely leans to the sweet side. It isn't like a pastry stout. This is not super cloying or over the top or anything, at least in my opinion. And it's very easy to drink. It's 10%, hides the alcohol extremely well. Like I said, the body, lower side of full body. The mouthfeel, it's soft, it's smooth. It almost has a creaminess to it, but not quite that creamy, but a nice soft smoothness. It's a really nice beer. I've always enjoyed this one, and I don't see any reason to change my opinion. It's a good beer. Yeah, real nice beer. Cleanse the palate. Let's go in for the 2019. Cheers, everyone. Or 2016. 2016. Cheers. Okay, so definitely past this prime. First thing I can say about this one, it's oxidized. 3.5 years, you kind of expect it in a bottle. It's going to have a little oxidation. This has like that cardboardy, like almost wet cardboard kind of like oxidation you get. Sometimes when beers are oxidized, you get like almost like a port or sherry note. This is more of like the cardboard type, but the flavors underneath it are still pretty good. The umami character does not carry over. Yeah, there's no soy sauce. There's nothing like that. So right up front, that cardboard hits. Right after that though, sweeter milk chocolate, a little bit of caramelized sugars, not as heavy on the toffee and caramel and caramelized sugars and burnt sugars that was in the fresh can. This is more like just sweet milk chocolate with a little bit of like the caramel and toffee. As it passes through the palate, this one dries out a little bit more. I can feel it on the back of the palate. This has more of a semi-dry finish, and it's not as sweet as the 2019. Yeah, it's not as sweet. Getting a touch of like, I'm gonna say, that's weird. It was like a touch of molasses on the back, like the molasses hit me on the back of the throat, which is odd. The body on this one, it's thinner than the 2019. Where this is like lower side of full body, this is like medium, a little bit over medium. So this is definitely thin. The mouthfeel, not as much carbonation. You expect, maybe lose a little bit. This is not flat, but it has a lower carbonation. It's very soft and smooth, not really creamy, much like this one, but I would say definitely not as carbonated as the newer version. Well, I can say this. Though, another thing is the alcohol is extremely well hidden on both these beers. I cannot tell they're 10%. A little bit of warming in the chest, on the palate, no way. Just because I can tell they're bigger beers based on the flavors and the mouthfeels and everything, I would guess it's doing blind probably 8 or 9%, but like as an alcohol on the palate, maybe 7, maybe 7.5. Definitely hides it well. So without a shadow of a doubt, this beer is better fresh based on what I'm drinking here. I'd imagine the sweet spot for this, as far as aging, is probably a couple years. 3.5 is probably too long, so probably sat on this a little bit too long. Probably wanted to drink this maybe a year and a half ago at the latest. I would say if you buy this beer, do not age it. If you have older bottles of it, definitely drink them now. I don't know how if they're gonna age well at this point. I mean, if you maybe drink this in 2 or 3 years, I'd imagine maybe that umami flavor would carry over into the taste. Definitely the carbonation would probably take a hit, but yeah, I'm enjoying the 2019 quite a bit more. So rating on the 2019 vintage of Imperial Sponge Candy Stout from Resurgence, I'm going to give it a high 4 out of 5 and go 4.1 out of 5. Almost gets into the 4.25 range. For me, 4.1 is pretty much, I usually rate this depending on the vintage anywhere between a 4 and a 4.25. This lands right at a 4.1. Really good vintage of it. Super easy to drink at 10%. And yeah, just a good beer. The 2016 vintage, on the other hand, substantial drop from this one. Best I can do on the 2016 is a 3.5 out of 5. I'm going to drink the rest of this over probably in the next day or so, put a topper on it and just, slowly work my way through it. But I will say that it has lost a lot. The body is somehow thinned out. The flavors aren't as impactful and bold that they were in the 2019. And yeah, that loss of carbonation is definitely a deterrent to the beer as well. So yeah, really enjoying 2019, 4.1 out of 5. And the 2016 gets a 3.5 out of 5. So definitely prefer the newer vintage, which I pretty much thought I would. Now, it's Cuvée time. We're going to pour the 2016 into the 2019. Oh, this might be a mistake, but I have a lot of that and at least half of this can, so we'll be fine. Let's get a nose. So the nose is really the 2016 mostly. Take it back, hang on. Yeah, there's sweet chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and then there's the caramel, the toffee, the caramelized sugars, which you kind of want. A little bit of a dark fruit is more intense in this one. Smells pretty good. Let me cleanse the palate because, when you do a cool, you gotta cleanse the palate. All right, let's get into it. It smells pretty good. It smells better than the 2016, but not as good as 2019, so cheers. Yeah, that's better than 2016. Not as good as the 19. Let's see. The body is somewhere in between now. It's like higher side of medium body. Like strict higher side of medium body. So you just combine the medium body to the lower side of full kind of medium body. The mouthfeel really didn't change too much. Soft, smooth, not really creamy. It doesn't have a ton of carbonation, but that's fine, whatever. The taste though, yeah, still chocolate, but it's more like a dark chocolate. I didn't get a lot of roastiness in the flavor of these when I was tasting them, but I get a little more of like a roasted malt now. But yeah, sweeter dark chocolate, roasted malt. Caramel, toffee, caramelized sugars, a little bit of a dark fruit. This one, a little bit sweeter than the 2019, but not as, yeah, I would say the sweetness is nice, actually. I was just going to like compare them. Not really, just the sweetness is nice. Really not bitter at all. Not a lot of dryness. It's not a bad, like the Cuvée, I'd give like a 3 point, like a high 3.75 or 3.85, kind of in between both of these. I think this Cuvée actually worked well for what it is, but my preference, 2019 by far. So if you have a bottle of the 2016, or I'd say even like 2015, 16, 17, I definitely drink them now. I don't think these are drinking all that well right now, so I can only imagine a couple more years what would happen to this one. And if you have a 2019, definitely crack it open. It's drinking extremely well right now. So price and availability, price point on this can, I want to say I paid like fours, for like low fours, like maybe like $4.25, $4.50. I believe 6 packs of this are 16 to 17 bucks, so that makes sense. And a bottle of this in 2016, I believe, was $10. So here's where I'll go on a little mini rant real quick because I know it's gonna be a longer video, but I've always hated the bombers just because, yeah, they're great for sharing and cracking open at shares or sharing with people. You can each have, 11 ounces of it or whatnot. They've always been a ripoff to me. I'm not saying Resurgence, this is ripoff, or I'm just saying in general. Like I could pretty much any brewery that's ever put their stuff in a bomber is always ripoff. $10 for this bottle, or you can get a 16-ounce can, 6 less ounces, mind you, 6 less ounces, right? 22 ounce, 16 ounce, And this was almost $6 less, $5.50. I mean, it's ridiculous that when you start putting beers in 4-packs and 6-packs, how cheaper it becomes when these bombers are just, I mean, $10 for that? No, I mean, for something for this, yes, you could buy 2 cans of this for less than $9 and get 32 ounces compared to 22 ounces for $10. It's just simple math. So yeah, at the end of the day, never liked the bomber format, but I would say, yeah, $4, $4.50 a can of this, definitely worth it. 10%, tastes pretty good. $10 for a bottle of this, it was worth it back then, I guess, but that's not the value of this beer now. Now we're $10 a bottle. On availability, if you live in the Western New York area, you should be able to get, not the 2016, unless there's some bottle shops hiding some, but the 2019, definitely. I've seen it around town. I picked this up at Premier Gourmet. They still have them on the shelves. I believe you probably can still get them at Wegmans and places like that. So yeah, anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by for another West York Wednesday. Check back next week for another installment. And I'm really happy I did this because I wanted to do this for a while and finally pulled the trigger, and here we are. So anyway, appreciate everybody stopping by. To the next one. Cheers.